Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to a new episode of Inspiration to Achieve. So it's May and it's the first week in May, and this is the first episode of Inspiration to Achieve. As you well know, Inspiration to Achieve is all about helping you turn your aspirations to transformation and to inspire you to achieve your life and business goals as well as thrive. So I am your host, Patience Ogunbona, aka the visionary introverted woman. And my passion is obviously helping other introverted women to achieve alignment with who they are and helping them to then create impact, influence, income, and thrive. So that's me. And I'm glad to be bringing you another exciting episode of Inspiration to Achieve today. But I'm not alone. My best episodes of these sessions, my live sessions, is always when I have rich conversations. And today we'll be talking about personal branding. And I'm excited because I have a guest with me today. And his name is Omo Osaigede. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. He will correct me when he gets on board. I'm doing my best, but he will correct me. But I'm really excited about the rich conversations we'll be having today. He's definitely the expert in this area more than myself. So let me tell you a little bit about him before I bring him on board and tell you how I met him. Because one of the things I like is I don't just have rich conversations, I build rich connections as well. And I'm glad that as I look back on my journey in business, that I've managed to connect with different people that I can now share that business and that journey with. So Omo is a British Nigerian writer, speaker, blogger, and digital content creator based in London. We've just been talking. He's moved from London. He's now my neighbor, and I'm excited about that. So Omo's works have been published in print by Lonely Planet, Cultures Magazine, and House of Coco Magazine. As a blogger and digital content creator, he's been featured in Forbes, Culture Trip, Blogosphere and Melan Magazine. He also publishes content at HeyDipYourToesIn.com, a culture and lifestyle blog he runs with his fantastic wife, Eulanda. So Eulanda, I hope I'm pronouncing it right as well. So Eulanda is great at photography as well. That I know. That's, and I love their work. And he's also an information security and data privacy professional who has worked in companies in the financial services, the retail, telecoms, and energy and utilities industry across Nigeria, UK, and Europe. He loves to write about digital security, cybersecurity, and digital privacy, and providing, non-technical education for the non-technical audience that need to access things around cybersecurity and technology. So he's probably more comfortable with tech than I am. So in terms of how did I meet Omo and why is he interesting for you to listen to today? So when I first started out, when you first start out something, you are like a deer in headlights. That's how it felt in 2017 when I said, I'm taking the leap and I'm going to start running my business as a coach, speaker, and trainer. At the time I was working, and so I was thinking of it as a side hustle, but I didn't know where to go, who to turn to. But then up pops a notice on LinkedIn to say, there are people here who are willing to mentor and just provide their time to help people who, like I said, are like deer in headlight. They've just started something new. So I read his profile, what he had written, and I was interested a lot in social media, and getting myself out there because it was all new to me. I focused more on my work rather than on being on social media, as you well imagine. And he totally took the time to talk to me, to reassure me, but to train me on Twitter. And he helped to increase my audience there. He helped to build my confidence there. So you're in for a treat today. What I will also say is that I'm connected with Omo on LinkedIn, and he's got an interesting sense of humor. and I always laugh out loud when I read his post. So without further ado, I think I've introduced him a lot, and I know you'll be interested in hearing more from him. So let me welcome my guest, Omo, to join us now. Hi, Omo. Thanks for being a guest today.
Hi, Patience. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so when I say Omo, am I pronouncing it right or say it in the accent, the right accent?
That's interesting because I don't get to practice my Nigerian accent very much these days. So the full name and the way it's pronounced is Omorui Osagede. So
Ooh, I love that.
everyone
It's
calls me
very
Omo.
rich.
Yeah, it's a many flavored name. The name itself comes from a part of Nigeria called Edo State, and my tribal heritage will be the Bini people of South Nigeria.
Hmm. I told you you're in for a treat. You get a lot of education on things. And that's another thing. I've told you a lot about him, but I want him to share it a little bit because he didn't waste time to tell you about culture. Suddenly you are educated on culture already because that's his like genius zone. And so tell us a bit more about how your life's interesting when it comes to adventure and knowing a lot about the world and everything.
Okay. So like I said, everyone calls me Omo. My family heritage is Nigerian, but I like to introduce myself as a citizen of the world currently living in the UK. And the reason I say that is because, after a series of life events and career decisions back going back to about sort of 2016, I suddenly found opportunities and actually created opportunities to do a lot more traveling. Work gave me some flexibility. I also, recently got married to Eulanda, who is also a keen traveler, and we just began to build a portfolio of countries and adventures and experiences. And generally, I think my mindset and philosophy now about life is that rather than collecting things, I want to collect experiences, and I will go where I can find the experiences that I can hold on to as memories for much longer than I can hold on to things. So I'm sure you're probably going to ask me, where's the most exciting place I've been to? The answer to
Yeah,
that
I'm going to
is
ask you that, but also have you done my dream journey and adventure, which is to visit all the seven wonders of the world? Have you done that?
nope, I haven't done that yet.
No.
So I'll leave you to do that one and then come and tell us a story.
So, what's the most interesting place you've been so far? Then.
That's a tough question to answer because every place, every country, every destination that I've been to either on my own as a writer or with my wife as a digital content couple has offered something different. Morocco, for example, gives us memories of waking up in the Sahara Desert at 5 a.m. in the morning to see the sunrise while freezing, seriously -0 degree temperatures. And that the sight is just, unparalleled. And then you go to places like Mauritius and the Maldives and
Mm,
Zanzibar, on the Indian Ocean that have the most amazing beaches I've ever been to. And then more recently, before the pandemic stopped us all from traveling, Austria has some of the most spectacular outdoor landscapes I've ever seen.
yeah.
And I've told myself that I will try my best to spend time in the outdoors in Austria at least once a year, just walking, because the air is so fresh. It just reinvigorates you
Yeah.
mentally and physically. So, yeah, every place has offered something different.
And that's interesting because what we're talking about today is that is kind of linked, isn't it? When you talk about it's the identity of those countries, of those places you've been to. That is something, some of it is something they have naturally, but they've also nurtured it so that it presents for tourists when they come. If you don't look after what you have, but also you found out about it perhaps because they put pictures online, they shared about how fantastic their life is. I remember going to Dubrovnik and driving and thinking to myself, look at what my eyes can see. But I wonder whether people just jump in their car in the morning and are off to work and don't notice any of this beauty because this is where they live, you
Hmm.
know. But fortunately for me, somebody felt that I needed to see it, shared it, and it became a holiday destination for me, an adversary destination. So
Yeah.
that brings us to talk about what we're here today to talk about, which is personal branding. Because obviously, it's like those countries are branded by, you talked about beaches in one place, you talked about desert in the other. So when we talk about personal branding, what do we mean by that?
Okay, thanks for the question. And this is a topic that I am increasingly excited to talk about. So, in my opinion, personal branding is a process of creating a story that you want the world to know about who you are, about what you do, about what you stand for, and why people should listen to you. Why should anyone care about, or take interest in you and what you have to say? So personal branding is the process of creating that story, creating that persona, creating um, that that picture, that visual or physical picture that people see and remember about you. Whether you're applying for a job, whether you're starting a small business, having a personal brand, in my opinion, helps you stand out from the crowd.
Hmm.
Um, you could also talk about personal branding from the position of being a combination of your skills and your experiences that make you who you are and that you present when you step into a space or step into industry.
Hmm.
I wear many hats as a professional. My personal brand is built around a couple of things. I work, as you said in my introduction, I work as an IT security risk management professional, but I also um, do work as a digital content creator, a writer, blogger, speaker. And so when I present myself in each of those spaces, I take with me a set of skills, a set of experiences that I have molded in such a way that people I engage with will remember me for those things. So, for example, in my IT security sphere, I want people to remember me or know me as the professional who's able to take complex security and technology concepts and make them easily understood to non-technical people or business people who have no interest in technology. When I'm presenting myself in my context as a digital content creator, I want to leave an impression of being an authentic storyteller who's able to engage and connect with audiences. So, personal branding is really about how you want the world to know you and who you are.
I like that. I was taking notes, as you can imagine, so I wasn't looking down because I did like what you were saying, but I didn't want to miss the point, and I wanted us to be able to amplify the point. So basically, I like the fact that someone is saying here, awesome authentic creations. So thanks for joining us, Unique Impact on LinkedIn. So basically, is the story you tell about yourself. They say information tells, stories sell. So we're all in the business of selling ourselves. You sell yourself to your partner. You sell, to get married. You have to kind of present an image of yourself. You at work as well. I think when you talked about that in the different scenarios, we have to create that story. It was interesting to me because when I recognized that in my career, I began to say it's important that people know who Patience is because if they don't like me, then I like that because then I know. I don't want people to employ me on the falseness of who I am. But if and I was fortunate to then start getting jobs where the final thing was for them to look at my personality and to ask me questions around things that mattered to me. And that was important because I didn't want to go to an environment where I had to be pretending, where I had to be wearing a mask. And so we want to tell stories that allow people to experience the authentic us. And that's what talk about. So a personal brand is the story you tell, and it's either in words in visuals and in person when you turn up in a room. That's who you are, the essence of you.
Yeah.
And that brings me to ask you, because as you well know, I introduced myself as the visionary introverted woman. And I do that unapologetically because people think I need to be cured. Some people have treated introversion as a mental illness in the past and they wanted to label it that way. But it was part of what I needed to embrace as my personal brand years ago, and now embrace in my business because it allows me to be in alignment. So if I ask you, are you introverted or extroverted, or do you know, or are you now ambivalent because you are adapted? What would you
I
say
think I,
you are?
I think I have adapted over the years. If you'd met me um 15 years ago, I was definitely in that introvert camp. I was very happy to stay in the background, put my head down, not draw attention to myself, and then let my work try to speak for itself. That has downsides, which we'll come to later on. But over the years, as I began to learn more about myself, as I began to identify my strengths and be real with myself about my weaknesses, um, I was able to start to develop a bit more of a persona that puts me out as an extrovert in certain situations. So I'm able to switch and turn the tap on when I need to. It also helps that I got married to a lady who is an out and out extrovert, and so
That always happens. Opposites attract.
she's managed to pull me into that world a bit more, and so I'm able to thrive as an extrovert in certain situations without feeling like I'm betraying my true nature.
And I think I like that word because your personal brand has to be something you can actually represent. That's the way I see it. So when you talk about be acting as an extrovert, I would say it's more you were probably thinking this scenario needs me to be loud, so I'll be loud. But I know that I need 2 days. That for me is I need 2 days not to talk at all. And so, that for me is the way that I handle it. So we have a few people saying hi here. We have Rochita on Facebook, and we have Unique Impact, and we have Janice. So welcome and thank you for joining us all live. We're great. We're excited to have you, and thank you for joining the conversation as well. So personal branding also evokes an emotion, isn't it? And it's like people already connect with you once they experience you. Your presence, they say, enters the room before you do sometimes, all those kind of things. But in terms of people always grow wary. I tell my clients, I say, we've got to put you out there. And we do things like the story you tell in your bio. We do things like logo, so all those things. Would you say that that's all necessary if someone is thinking about personal branding or things like that you've said? Would you say that all that is necessary and important as part of the process of bringing out your personal brand?
I think it is very, very important to have those physical representations of your personal brand and have them developed in such a way that they are memorable and consistent. If you think about personal branding, almost like product branding, they're very similar in the sense that um, you you remember the brands that leave an impression on you. To anyone watching this live or watching a replay, take a moment to think about your favorite product brands. Think about Coca-Cola, for example, the global bottling company who make the soft drink. You remember Coca-Cola because of the unique shaped bottle. In fact, I'm actually I'm holding a flask here. You know that
That is Coca-Cola
it's
flask.
like
Yay.
it's actually not Coca-Cola, but
Okay.
the people who made this have clearly tried to copy that unique shape of the Coca-Cola
Oh,
bottle. So you
see?
remember that unique shape. You also remember Coca-Cola for the ads, the Christmas ads. When we were growing up, you would have, the big trucks and the Santa Claus Christmas commercials. Think about Apple. When you think Apple as a product brand, you think elegance, you think functionality, you think clean design. You know,
I
think about
actually think temptation because that bite of the apple that is off is like Garden of Eden. Is like the products are so sleek and it draws your eye in, and you're like,
exactly.
"Ooh, nice shiny object," and it's like, take a bite of this apple. The temptation of it. So that's the way I think of Apple when I think of it. So yeah.
And that's clearly, an impression that they've left on you, and that's deliberate. That's very intentional. The people who are behind those brands have thought through how they can leave an impression by being consistent with their logos, their color schemes, their messaging. They leave that memory with you that is highly
Mm,
visual and then evokes an emotion with you. In your case, it's temptation because it makes you want to buy. You know, if you're stuck in traffic on a hot day in Lagos, Nigeria, and you see one of the street hawkers with a flask of soft drinks, your eye first of all goes to Coca-Cola because that's the
mm,
first most recognizable thing that your brain just draws you to quench your thirst in that moment. And so the same principles apply when you're talking about personal branding, whether you're expressing your personal brand through social media. Your social media handles have to be consistent. You can't be known as one thing on Twitter and a different thing on Instagram and a different thing on Facebook. That consistency is lost. Think about your colors. If you're expressing your personal brand through a website, think about the colors that you want to use, that and what kind of emotions you want those colors to evoke on the people who visit your website. So those principles are very important when it comes to developing a personal brand.
I need to echo some of the things you said. Brilliant stuff. You said they need to a personal brand or branding needs to be memorable. It needs to be consistent. It needs to be intentional. Evoke emotions. And the way I see it, I'm not very into. This is a story that helps me differentiate really well. And some of us buy brands not because, so like Coca Cola, we don't know, it's not an individual, but some of the luxury goods usually are people. There are people creating it. They're the, hi, Teresa on Facebook. You have the, um, what do you call it, you have the individuals and the designers and people, and they have their names on Calvin Klein, all that stuff that you have. So I'm not into luxury goods. I tend to think, oh, lots of money, but that has changed over the last couple of years, and part of it came from the fact that I saw a 2 hour documentary on Sky, and it said that they'll be talking about Ralph Lauren and his life. And I thought, this is my chance to hear what these people are about because I don't buy their expensive products. I really just want to know something. And I remember just sitting down there and being mesmerized by his story and could understand his personal, because it's Polo, Ralph Lauren is almost become a product. Now that's where the lines can blow. But the truth about it is, when I watched the documentary, it's all him.
Mm.
He's not doesn't know how to sew a single cloth in his life. He doesn't know how to draw it, but it's the concept and the lifestyle he's trying to sell. So when you talk about that intentionality, he actually lives the brand. The whole cowboy outfit. He has a ranch. He wears it with his family. That's how he looks. That's what he drives. So what he's actually selling to us is him, who
Mm.
he is. But we now then connect. So I can tell you what my family got for Christmas. Most of them. Guess what they got?
Ralph Lauren.
Ralph Lauren or Polo stuff. Because I so connected with that story. So would you say that at the core of a personal brand is the story itself that you tell, so that story, because like I said, stories sell, and uh, information tells, and that for me is where you can evoke the emotions. Would you
Yeah.
agree, and would you speak into that a little bit?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think most of the work involved in building a personal brand is storytelling. And storytelling is something that anybody and everybody can do. We all have stories to tell, whether those stories are about our personal lives, whether they are about our journey as career professionals or as entrepreneurs or business people, whether those stories are about raising kids, or traveling the world. Everybody has a story to tell, how you've overcome adversity, how you learned things about yourself. All of those stories can feed into developing your personal brand when you leverage them the right way. Um, and storytelling is something that you can you can express in many ways. Like you talked about imagery, we talked about writing, audio visual. You can express your story in different ways. I like to tell people who are starting small businesses that before you invest all your time in pushing your products on social media, a lot of the foundational work you need to do to build your small business brand is to sell yourself and your story as the entrepreneur behind that brand. People want to buy from people before they want to buy products. And it's important to try and find that balance. So, for example, if you're into making like my sister, for example, she makes bags and shoes and fashion accessories from local fabrics she sources from across West Africa. Um, and when she was starting her business, I tried to encourage her to take her audience on a journey with her. So when she's going to the market, for example, to select fabrics or to talk to the sellers, take a camera with you, film that experience, talk about your negotiation skills and how the day went and what worked and what didn't work. Bring your audience into that story and let people invest in that story or feel invested enough in your journey so that when you then start to push your products or push your services, they already know the face behind the brand. I know not everybody is confident in front of a camera. Not everybody feels like they have that camera ready personality. You don't have to. Um, n- I never thought I was able to stand in front of a camera and actually say anything until you know somebody actually took me on a journey and taught me the basics. But as soon as you just start telling your story, as long as it's coming from an authentic place, that camera shyness disappears almost immediately because you are telling something that comes from a real place. And as you do that, people then start connecting with you and what you represent.
And I think that's the key. You ended by talking about the key point with it is human beings, we are designed to connect, and that's the reason for for all of these. And also you talk about leveraging, leveraging stuff. It's important to recognize what is like, what do you have in your hand, what can you start with. And you always and you talked a lot, you talk about the foundational elements of starting a business. Now I remember having an interesting conversation where I wanted people to help me with my website. And I said, I really don't need a website. When I first started, I said that. And I said, I will just do my best. I really don't want to shout, being someone who just wants to stay in the background and everything. I just want to do my thing. And I was focusing more on how do I get the products out there, what I sell. As you well know, I'm a John Maxwell certified coach as well. So I was thinking, no, I just want to get this out there. I'm really qualified, and I have all this training and everything. And the guy said, look, you've got to talk about you. My company is called Aspire, Transform, Inspire. And I told them the story around it. And the guy was like, man, I've got to do the website for you, whether you want it or not, because I want to tell that story. But I think as time has gone on as well, I've been more interested in connecting with people on a personal level. And so my stories have got different. I've also brought my personality, which is being an introverted woman and wanting to help other introverted women, has created a why for me. So it's like, taking people on a journey, but also that journey in itself, recognizing the word intentionality. You have to be
Hmm.
intentional about creating a personal brand. Ralph
Yes.
Lauren, that I said, when you watch that video, he's been intentional from the beginning. Macy's and all the big shops wanted to stock his products, and he said, "No, I don't want them on the shelf. I want a Ralph Lauren space in this shop." So you can be Macy's, but and he walked away with his product and refused to sell it to them. They called him back and said, "We compromise. You are doing something unique," and they gave it to him. But what that journey led to was him going to New York and being the first shop to open an ostentatious, kind of. He's all about the experience. So he opened a shop where you enter there and you have experience. They say he's the first person to do it that way. They say he's so it's all about the intentionality. I like what you said about intentionality.
Yeah.
I like what you said about engaging people. That advice that you gave, it's not many people, when I said to them I'm introverted, they will say, "Oh, it's a lie." Because you are constantly on camera. And I'll be like, yeah, it's what it calls for, right? So I take 2 hours break after being on 30 minutes on camera, just because it's not part of who I am. I'm not in there to be, but I also exude a lot of energy. So I can get what you're saying. So that
Sorry,
brings me to,
still on
okay,
that
go ahead.
topic of still on that topic of being intentional. A lot of the conversations I have around personal branding tend to be in a career development context, and I speak to a lot of either younger professionals or people who are my peers who feel dissatisfied in their careers. Um, and many years ago, this struck me that a lot of us have become our jobs. We've become we've come to a place in our careers where we are defined by the organizations we work for. We're defined by the roles that we are assigned. We're defined by the positions that we are given. And in
Hmm.
that process, we lose a lot of who we really are and what we really have to offer. And so that's why when you don't get that promotion, you suddenly feel completely disillusioned because you have tied your sense of self-worth, you've tied your sense of fulfillment to that particular position. And
Hmm.
so it's important to step away, take a step back from the organization you work for, take a step back from the role that you currently work in, and think bigger, think wider. Like if you were to lose that job today, what are you taking away from there in terms of what you're able to offer to industry? And so it's important to take back control of your own story as a career professional from the organizations that we work for and
Hmm.
start to think intentionally about how you can create your own story and drive that story beyond the organization so that it doesn't matter whether you're going for a similar job or a similar role next. The fact is you're stepping away from that particular box that you've been placed in with an identity that doesn't it's not tied to a particular organization or particular role. So your personal brand is about being intentional about developing that career story that you want to be able to take with you from place to place and that transcends organizational boundaries and structures.
That is, that is really great. And, something that takes me back to my own corporate journey as well. And you mentioned some very key things, that emotional stuff as well. So somebody on LinkedIn says, definitely a lie. I'm quite an extrovert. They're saying I'm lying about being an introvert. So that is good. Um, so basically, career wise, I remember this thing you're saying is so important for anybody in a job to really take this on board. And if you're starting, kudos to you. You can build your story, your own personal brand outside of the jobs, the roles. It gives you that flexibility and freedom. When I first started out career wise, I lacked a lot of understanding of my self worth. As time went on and I began to build that understanding and that clarity and take responsibility, a couple of things happened in my life that became interesting. So I went from really chasing after work to people saying, "We identified that you are the right fit for this." because the story I was now telling about myself was different. I was able to sell myself in a different way. But I remember my boss who said to me, who did two things at the time after I started changing. So one, he called me, he said, Patience, you are a nice person. And I know you must have heard this phrase, nice people finish last. But that's not true. So he gave me a book called The Power of Nice by Linda Kaplan. And another author. And he said, I need you to read this book because I don't want you to change. I really don't. And that was when I began to realize that somebody is actually encouraging me to be authentic, my authentic self, and not to dilute who I am with the environment. And I remember that when I then invited him and said I was leaving, he was like, I don't attend people's zone, but I'll attend yours. So he did. But that was the first thing. The next, getting an opportunity to get a job, I sat across the interviewer and he said to me, he said, you are exactly the person we need here. I don't know that we deserve you, but we need you. And I was like, that is great, because actually what he was pointing at about me was what I really wanted people to get about me, not anything else other than maybe I have all the qualifications. No, that's important. But what do I bring as a human being to that environment that will impact your environment? But also, the questions I would ask would mean, does this environment suit me as a person? Do I fit? And I think those are the great, the things you've pointed out here around making sure that you are able to carry yourself along. And the word fulfillment, I love that word. It's one of my, so that's great. So there is this phrase that says, what you think about me is none of my business. So would you agree with that? You know, based on this point around an entrepreneur looking to build a successful business, for example, or somebody looking to build a successful career, I've heard that phrase a lot, especially people who say, I don't care, you can say this about me, of course, I don't, you can say this about me, but I don't care. So in the context of what we're talking about, would you agree with that statement? What you think about me is none of my business.
I disagree. I don't think that anybody who's looking to build a successful personal brand can say that with a straight face and get away with it. um, it's important to realize that um, an important building block of a personal brand is your reputation, and
Mm,
reputations travel far. Reputations outlive us, and so if as a small business person, as a career professional, you have that, I don't really care what you think about me attitude. You are probably setting up yourself for failure further down the line. I know people, as in my 15 or 16 years of working in the UK, I know people who I began my career with, who early on developed a certain reputation, either for good or not so good work. Um,
mm,
and that reputation has followed them through their careers, to the point where, and some of these industries I work in are quite small in the sense that everybody knows everybody. And
mm,
when you walk away, or when you create a reputation that is um, uh, unsavory in certain ways, um, the people who eventually have to make the hiring decisions or promotion decisions um, may hear or pick up on those things, and
mm,
eventually that could affect the person's chances of advancement or promotion, or sealing certain deals or contracts. So it's important to realize that your reputation is a core part of your personal brand, and so it's important to manage that reputation, and be deliberate about changing it if it is not, if it is something that isn't currently where it should be in terms of desirability.
mm. And that even brings me to talk about what's happening in leadership at the moment. There are some places around that that people had a reputation. yet they people voted for them to be in government, and you think to get a different approach. You're asking a leopard who hasn't recognized that they're a leopard to change, or who knows that they're a leopard and are not willing to change their spots, and you say they should change it. They have a reputation for not being honest, and you expect honesty. Where are you going to get it from? Especially if they've not admitted to be honest. This is the thing about us understanding values
Mm.
as well, because your value precedes you. And obviously, in the next 2 days, I'll be focusing on my masterclass and roundtable sessions to talk about leadership, the introverted woman leadership, the female leader. But this is it. When you talk about reputation being your personal brand, when somebody is going for an election or something, they're selling us their personal brand. And we've got to look at what their reputation is. Do they like are they being very chauvinistic male people? Are you going to expect that reputation to change just because they have power? Actually, you are looking for trouble. It's even going to be worse. So when you think about people and you see them, what you're seeing is that personal brand. Are you going to buy it? That's the question you
Yes.
need to ask yourself. Not, and this is the question that I need people to think about. This phrase, I heard it and it's very important for me. People might not remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. But
Yeah.
in the context of the way social media has handled they evoke certain feelings so that you lose connection with the true feelings. The thing that is going on in your mind, you're thinking, this person, they erode that with stories
Mm.
and the fake news so that you are whipped up with the wrong emotion and you flow with that. So what you're seeing is that person's personal brand, that reputation. It won't change. It actually gets worse when they have power to implement it. So would you like to buy that personal brand? That's the question to ask yourself
Yeah.
about any leaders.
Yeah, and the
So
truth is, some people have built personal brands based on what you've just described. And in the world we live in, they've managed to get away with, having personal brands that are known for dishonesty, chauvinism, and all those things. That's just the way life is. But
mhm,
being a person, coming back to your point about values, I always bring it back to my core values, and I always want to make sure that I'm building my personal brand on values that I see as honest, full of integrity, and values that make other people feel good about themselves.
mm. That's so important. And obviously, I did get that from you, from your personal brand. That's how I connected with you. You didn't treat me in a way that said, "Ooh, you don't know this stuff, you're getting into business," but you helped me to know this stuff that actually helped me to feel confident because I was able to grow my followership on Twitter based on the conversations we had. And that makes all the difference in the world. So yeah, thank you publicly for that as well. So in terms of just clarity as well, when we say personal brand and niching, for
Mm.
example, is there a nice link, or how do you kind of help people to differentiate it and understand it better?
That's a good question. I think the best personal brands are very specific, and the more specific you can be about building your personal brand, um, the better or the stronger that brand is. When developing a personal brand, think about a niche that you're currently operating. If you're a financial services professional, think about the range of experiences and skills in financial services. Think about what really interests you, what really motivates you, what makes your heart really sing. That's an idea of what niche that you might want to focus on. Now, take that niche itself and see if you can carve a niche within that niche. You know, um, there's um, there's a young man I began following on YouTube recently. Shout out to Peter Komolafe. Um, he's probably around my age, and he's got many years of experience as a financial services independent financial advisor. Um, but now he has this whole YouTube series that's built around helping people from ethnic minority groups um, to think about investment, and in a way, not in a way that comes at you as being salesy and marketing and full of all the gimmicks and tricks. He's coming at it from an authentic place. He tells a
Hmm,
story about his father, a Nigerian immigrant to the UK, who worked hard all his life and didn't build up any investments or pensions. And when the man died, he left nothing. There was no
hmm.
generational wealth to pass on.
Huge
And
pain
so
point.
exactly. And so for him, he's taking that story from his personal life, and he now wants to use that and leveraging his skills and experience to try and drive education in Black and ethnic minority communities around investment, around creating generational wealth, around making sensible financial decisions. And so he's taking his broad expertise in financial services, carved a niche for himself, and within that niche, he's going even deeper to focus on a particular ethnic group and ethnic minority because of a personal experience that he's had. So,
Hmm,
short answer to your question is carving a niche is part of the process of building a personal brand. And the more
hmm.
specific you can be, the better and stronger that personal brand is.
That's that's really, and you talked about his personal story, which obviously Simon Sinek is known for saying, find your why.
Mm,
And that why is actually linked to the definition of why you are into that niche. You're into that area. And the correlation is so strong as well and so emotive as well. I got a boom in my heart when you said his father left nothing, because I was thinking that is, what we think about when we talk of generations, when we talk of changing the narrative of poverty. If you're from a
mm,
poor family and you've not left any generational input on things for your children, that generational poverty is carrying on generations to come in future. So it's all about generational wealth as well can be created. You start, your family did not go to school, you go to school, so you tell that story. It's kind of a big thing, and obviously that will make me think I need to check him out and what he's up to. Especially it resonates with me. Is the kind of person I'll point out to my son, who is 23, and say, look at this person, look at what they're doing. What can you glean from what they're doing about
mm,
investment? Because the good thing is, the bad thing is I can shout and we can have a fit and a fight about investment, but if I sent him to somebody else, he would listen.
mm.
That kind of thing. You don't know what you're saying. Well, so the way I practice my parenting is modeling and mentoring from a distance, and just do it, and then maybe come and show you my bank account, and you think, okay, but it's not all yours, you go work for yours. And maybe that will help a little bit. Yeah, so that's great. So in terms of, we've said a lot of things, and I just wanted us to provide a summary for someone
Mm,
who decides, okay, really, I want to build my personal brand. I'm starting out, or I've started out and I've failed in doing that, and now I really need to do that. I hammer this a lot. The problem with building a personal brand is it takes time.
mm.
There's no shortcut about it. And
Yeah.
it takes effort, it takes energy, that intentionality, that consciousness, that knowing what you're putting out there, and being very conscious and intentional about it can take more energy than most people want to put. But the truth about it is thinking about, if you want to build a skyscraper, the foundation has to hold a skyscraper. If you want to build a bungalow, the foundation. So what do you want to build? So I think the starting point, in a nice summarizing way, what would you say if somebody thought, okay, yes, I've heard you, Omo. So I need to start this. What would you say, people? Where should they start from, really?
Okay. Another great question. Um, I think there are three things I'll share. But the first thing, the starting point for me would be start by changing your mindset.
Mm,
Remember, I said previously in one of my answers that a lot of us have become frozen in time by our jobs and the organizational structures and life structures around us. We let other people define who we are. We let other people drive the narrative of our lives and our stories. That first thing, the first step is to change your mindset about your personal story and take back control of your story. Take back control of your narrative. Don't let your friends, your family, your bosses, your colleagues, your coworkers define that story for you. Change your mindset. Your story is yours and yours alone to craft, to create, and to tell. The second thing I'll say is, talking about stories and storytelling, again, another point we talked about previously is have a key message or a small set of key messages. um, Previous question we talked about, building or carving out a niche. When you go to a networking event, for example, and you're working the room and introducing yourself and having conversations, if you have 2 minutes with a particular individual who you are meeting for the first time, what is your story going to be? Who are you going to introduce yourself as, and what impression do you want to leave behind? So if and this is something that probably will require multiple iterations. I have sat down with a piece of paper or notepad and written down, a few things I want people to know about me, a few things I want to tell people about myself, and I've torn that up and started again and gone back again over and over until I
mm,
found a set of keywords, a set of
mm,
key messages that
mm,
come naturally to me and that allow me to express myself when I'm introducing myself to people, or when I'm in a situation where I have to leave an impression. And so have a key message or a set of key messages, and that starts to build your story. And then the last thing is decide on how you want to tell that story.
mm,
um, and this is where I come into my area of great interest, which is social media.
mm,
I have too many friends who say that, oh, I don't know, all this social media is for the young people. All the social media, they use it to steal your data, steal all the information about you. The truth is, if you are serious about building a personal brand in 2021, you cannot escape social media, which is basically where a lot of stories are being told these days.
mm,
Um, you don't have to be on every single platform. You don't have to be on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and all those places at the same time. Even if it's just one platform that you engage with so that you feel comes naturally to you, take that platform and use it the way it should be used. So, for
mm,
example, if you are trying to build a personal brand around your career story, LinkedIn is a natural place for you to be. And one of the first things you need to do is make sure you have your whole LinkedIn profile is set up correctly. You
mm,
have a proper professional photograph that's not cropped from a group photo, not taken at night, not cropped from a photo where you were at a party or something. Take a professional headshot. That's the first impression people have when they visit your profile on LinkedIn as a career professional. Good profile headshot, then your bio, your summary, and
mm,
I could go on and on. And not just about the first impression itself, the actions that you then take to build that profile, the posts that you create, the
mm,
content that you engage with, the comments you leave on other people's posts, all those things start to contribute to that story you are building around yourself and who you are as a professional. So just to recap
mm,
again, change your mindset, take back
mm,
control of your story,
mm,
have a key message or set of messages, refine that as many times as you want to until you get to a point where you're comfortable, and then decide on your platform of expression and be
mm,
consistent.
mm.
That's basically what I would say as my summary for building your personal brand.
And it's quite simple. I like that. Thank you for sharing that. It's nice because it's easy and it's accessible for everybody to do. We're not asking you to buy anything. We're not asking you to use any software or anything that would. This is more of starting with mindset. And that's what people hate. What's the quickest way that I can do this so that I don't have to change myself
Mm.
or so that I don't have to think differently?
Yeah.
That's harder. It's simple, but it's so hard because it's our mindset that is the gatekeeper of all the things that we produce in our lives. And there's a LinkedIn user here who said, "You are so right. Most of us are defined by our jobs, and as a result, we've lost our personal brand." And it's true. When you say, who are you? People say, and I remember doing a workshop in Nigeria, and there was a training, emotional intelligence training. And the first thing the person walked in was, who are you? He asked them the question. And my brother was sitting there. My brother said, oh, I'm a pastor and I'm also own my own company. He said, no, that's not who you are. That's what you do. Who are you? And my brother said, I have to sit for this training. I think I need it. I don't know how to answer that question. And I said, good. So at the end, you are going to define who you are. And that's why you say craft it. It takes time, it takes the discovery. People always say, I go to the uncomfortable, deep places, but that's my gift because it's out of that depth that I can define who I am. And I've always been
Mm.
fascinated from childhood to think, who are you? How do you, who am I? What's my purpose? And
Yeah.
I've always said purpose is not something you are looking for, is something you reveal
Yeah.
and you produce in your from yourself. So,
Yeah.
but that took a while. It took a decision to learn whether that was the case, and I stopped looking outward and started building it. So, really, thank you very much because there are so many nuggets. And all I will say is, this is going to be on YouTube as well for replay. You can watch. We'll put a link to my YouTube channel. And those of you that are linked to Omo, or you get links to Omo's social media as well, where he will post a link to the video and you can watch it. But what I would say is that actually following him, you will enjoy his stories. Like I said, if I'm wanting to have a good day, he has a knack for making people laugh with some of the things. Even the picture enough, you look at it and you think, before I read the post, I just need to have a good laugh at his posture here, at what he's saying here, And so it's worth following because he's very interesting and he shares all these things. But, to kind of finish off, what word of wisdom, out of all the things you've said, what word of wisdom can you leave with the audience to take away today? Whether it's on personal branding, whether it's generally your philosophy of life
Mm.
as a whole.
Okay. I I I think I'm going to actually borrow a phrase or something that I read many years ago by from a book by the great late Nigerian author Chinua Achebe,
Mm,
who wrote the book Things Fall Apart. I think the book was written in the late 50s, early 60s.
mm,
And he in the book he talks about a lizard, that jumped from a high tree and landed on the ground, and said to himself, I will praise myself even if nobody else did. Because,
mm,
when the lizard, naturally, if you watch a lizard, they have this thing where they kind of like nod their head every few minutes. So this
mm.
lizard jumps down from the tree,
And
and
goes.
looks around, and then, like, yeah, even if nobody's telling me that I just did a great thing, I will praise myself. And so it's important that, you know when you think about the great work that you do, when you think about all the great skills and experiences that you've gathered over the years, um, be intentional about praising yourself, and not in a self-serving way, but in a way that makes you stand out from the crowd, in a way that gives people the impression that they can come to you for answers, for solutions. Um, Take control of your own narrative, take control of
Mm,
your own story, and be like that lizard. When you do great work, tell people about it. Use that in your personal brand. Use that to promote yourself and who you stand for, what you stand for, and who you are.
mm. That is so. You're talking to me anyway, because I am not the. I would love to do more of what you're saying. And many introverted people or introverted women, staying in the background and just being nice, doing the nice stuff, and not really nodding like the lizard. So I think I like that image of every time I jump, I need to do this. That just would
Yeah,
remind me,
just
look
dust
around
yourself up
and go,
and
yeah, 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 yeah,
praise yourself. Yeah, I did that.
yeah.
I made that happen, and take pride in that work and take
Yeah.
pride in that thing, and let it feed into your story, and let it feed into your personal brand.
Thank you. That's very, and some people are actually quite grateful on LinkedIn. Someone is saying hi. Richard is saying good afternoon, and you have a great day. Thank you, Richard, for saying hi. as you pass along. And then we have the LinkedIn user here who is saying, thank you so much. I enjoyed every minute of it. And we did too. We are having fun, but obviously, all good things also do come to an end. So before I let Omo go, I want to remind whoever, that if you're an introverted woman and you really want to up level, in this day and age, you cannot afford not to build your leadership skills. So I'm inviting you to come and explore what's your leadership style? How can you up level? How can you use that style in creating the business or the life or the career that you want? So I'm having my masterclass and roundtable sessions for 2 days tomorrow, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. GMT UK time, and I'll put a link at the end. You can join. Sadly, it's not going to involve men and things, but I have other workshops coming up that will be workshops that men can take part in. The other thing is, like mentioned, I have a YouTube channel, and the replay of this will be on there. So I'll put a link in as well, so it makes it easy for you to not go around looking in my post. You can find it straight away from there. You just need to subscribe. That way you get a notification, because there are more interesting stuff coming up, and there's a lot more interesting stuff that has happened. I only bring interesting guests to my show, as you well know. So that means that you want to be able to enjoy and gain benefit from it. But one of the things we do that obviously represents my own personal brand, just like Omo loves to do, I love to share things that inspire me. So we always end with quotes. Today I have two quotes. One of them says, "Your brand is what people say about you when you are not in the room." And that's by Jeff Bezos. Obviously, we know we talk about Amazon. In fact, we have shares in Amazon without shares in Amazon in this house. So that was by Jeff Bezos. Another one is by one of my favorite authors and personal development gurus, as well as leadership. He says, when people like you, they will listen to you. When they trust you, they will do business with you. And that's by Zig Ziglar. So, just some words of wisdom to take away, including what Omo has said to celebrate yourself. I think we've left a lot of wisdom and a lot of nuggets with you today. So, please connect. Feel free to connect with all the links that we share. And I just want to remind you that, okay, both of us, myself and Omo, if you are struggling to be rooting for yourself, borrow our goodwill for you, because we're rooting for your success and we're rooting for you. So thank you for watching us, and take care and God bless. Say thank you, say bye to the audience, Omo.
Thanks for having me, Patience, and
Thank
thanks
you.
everyone for watching.
Bye, everybody.